kept their view while the women came and went, barefoot servants too. Outside in the cold distance, while that deep brown, come on, two riders were approaching.
So, hello everybody. I think this is episode 23. And today we are kind of remembering Jimi Hendrix, 50 years of Jimi Hendrix's death. And the intro was, of course, Watchtower, which is a great cover of the Bob Dylan song, All Along the Watchtower. And Jimi did his version on that one, which was absolutely phenomenal. And I tried to have my version on it. A little thing you should know here. We played the backing track and it was not even on 440, so I had to tune the guitar somewhere in between whatever pitch that was just before the intro. This is why we're running a bit late. Little surprise, but it doesn't matter. So, Jimi Hendrix. Let's talk about the legend of Jimi Hendrix and actually what this guy, I'm talking this guy, was doing for the rock guitar and the music. He was the first guitar player that was using multiple effects in front of his amp, and he was famous to be a sound pioneer for the electric guitar. Of course, he used tons of Marshall amps, but he was also using amps in the studio, Sun amps and Fender Twins. And when he recorded in the studio, he was super creative, trying out new effects. And when he was playing, he did total different arrangements, also using different gear on stage. So the first thing we probably know of Jimi is he is famous for his wah-wah. So let me show you a little Vox wah-wah here. Okay, this is gonna be hard, but anyway, you get the picture. This is the famous Vox wah. And to be honest, when I started to try Jimi Hendrix tones, I bought a Jimi Hendrix wah-wah because it says Jimi Hendrix. And guess what? I ended up modifying this one, I ended up modifying this one, and it sounded better this way and a little bit better the other way. And then in the end, I came back to the original wheel deal Vox wah-wah, which is a real one from the 60s, late 60s. Don't ask me what it is, but this is the smoothest, and it's just a sound. That is giving the sound. It has this typical sound, and it doesn't need anything else. Bam. Just that fucking old Vox Waffer does the job. Okay, in the intro song, I was using this pedal board, including my Replex here, because that was being used on my version of Watchtower, which is I'm a big fan of this kind of tape echo that comes from the Replex. Okay. And this was also being used on this live DVD and CD, which actually is available in the shop now. The CD, maybe we have a little link here for those that don't have my first Hendrix, Blue Plays Hendrix CD. The DVDs unfortunately are sold out at this point, but I have found a few CDs from the track that you just heard and a lot of more tracks. And this was 10 years ago. So I did this concert remembering Jimi Hendrix exactly 10 years ago. And this band was fantastic because it was using Reggie Worthy instead of Raoul Walton. I was planning it with Raoul Walton, but he kind of got sick just while we did our little rehearsal. And then last minute, I had to call up another bass player since Raoul went to the hospital and he couldn't play the job. He's fine now. But back then, Reggie, who was also playing with Ike and Tina Turner, he knew Jimi Hendrix material, and he comes from the north of Germany. And I sent him all my arrangements on MP3s via email. He was kind of burning a CD, and he was learning the tracks and my arrangements on the way to Saarbrücken, where I live, and where we played our first gig. And what you just seen here, the band, was our second gig. So we only had one warm-up gig, and the next gig was already the cut of the live DVD. You know, so this was a very, very exciting times. And Reggie did a fantastic job. And besides Reggie, we had David Reedman. David Reedman is a UK, more kind of a hard rock singer. But I thought Jimi Hendrix music, if I have somebody singing just like Jimi Hendrix, you will never get to this super authentic voice of Jimi. The voice that is so soft. The way Jimi is singing is so unique. If you try to get there, nobody can. And so I thought, you know, I have to change my arrangements and I have to change the voice. And some people didn't like the to speak hard rock voice in Jimi Hendrix music, but I like, because I wanted to give it a different flavor. And then, of course, original Jimi is original Jimi, and it's unbeatable. Don't even dare to to try that, because he was living his music in the moment, and it was so special. And if you have somebody that tries to copy that, you are always just a lousy copy of the original. So we try to be ourselves doing that. And so this was the Blue Plays Hendrix, and the drummer was Wolf Simon, who was also in the Thomas Blug band, and we had the experience. So I thought this band can go on stage without having rehearsals and just do it. You know, full risk, and this is what you can see and hear on that first Blue Plays Hendrix live CD. And it has a super special spirit. This I still love it because it's you know, no net and full on. Okay, I was using my Hendrix board, and some of the components on that board were used on that gig as well, which was the Replex we just heard. And the other thing is that tube wipe from Effect Road. Let me show you that one. So talking about vibes, I found a quality that I was always looking at when I was, checking out vibes or buying a vibe. It should have the low rumble. So this is what I'm talking. Listen to this. Okay, so this kind of low modulation is what I like about a vibe versus a standard phaser. The phaser is more in the mid-range and this kind of vibe effect is more in the lower range. Okay, then you need to understand a little bit more about the fuzz effects. So I put this on kind of just... That's the amp overdrive. No boost, I just have a little Replex here. Let's have everything on bypass. So it's just the amp 1 on the vintage channel, which is like... This would be like a crank Marshall. So the Fuzz Face, this is a mini Fuzz Face. Oh fuck. Cleans up like crazy. So this is a typical fuzz, it's kind of this, big, fat overdrive. So what to do with it? Usually it sounds very crappy, but if you know how to dial in the volume control on your guitar, you know how to make the guitar speak. Okay, so that's the beauty of a Fuzz Face. The other pedal he was famous for, which was designed by Roger Meyer, is the Octavia. Actually, I have an original Roger Meyer Octavia here. I will show you in a minute so we can actually compare. Let's try the Proctavia by Voodoo Lab, which is on that pedal board again. So this sounds really, really special. If you don't know how to dial that in, it sounds almost kaput. But you know what? Maybe I get the Replex out of the way and change my board to the standard, so we have a better picture here. Okay, yeah. This was just for the song, or maybe I get it back later. Who cares? This is the output from that one. We put this in here. We put that in here, and fantastic. So power. Let's see. Okay, now it's this. So this is super special. The trick is you turn down the treble on the neck pickup and you have this octave. When the treble is up, it sounds like very brittly. So this was actually the Fuzz Face, which is funnily noisy, and the Octavia together. Yeah, so this is typical Hendrix, to have one or the other, and sometimes no, but work the volume pot. This is the thing about Jimi's setup. So he was combining the amp drive with the effects, like one or two, fuzz boxes, and the Univibe that he was using, and a wah-wah pedal. And if you look at other guitar players at that time, nobody was using that many effects on stage. And that made him, to me, the sound pioneer, because whatever gear he had in his hands, he could make it work in a way. Some of the concerts, you can tell, he had trouble to find a tone, but most of the time he could dial in something that was exciting. So the guy had a vision and he had a feeling, and he was dialing in stuff, and he did great job. Only these few albums he did in the 60s made him, the rock guitar hero of all times. Only this little time span, and it's very unbelievable for me. One thing I don't have here at all, which is essential to his live tone, is to have a different type of cable. He was never, or rarely, using straight cables. He had always this kind of coil or spiral cables. And the trick of these spiral cables is they have a lot of dampening on the pickups. So the sound wasn't too bright. You know, playing a Stratocaster can be super bright and super brittly, but having, you know, the old school bad coily cable is giving you a fatter tone with a Strat. And then he can compensate by setting the controls of the fuzzes and the amp in a more bright way. And that's something works, simply works. And it's creating a unique tone he only had in live situations. In the studio, he had different setups and he had different tones. And what I like about the way he was dealing with different situations was that he was accepting studio as a studio environment, creating the best in that environment, and having completely different ideas for a live situation, because there were no studio tricks available. In the studio he had, later on with the Electric Ladyland album, he had many tracks to record, so he was laying down several guitar tracks, and he was using different effects that he kind of was experimenting for himself or stealing from the Beatles, like phasing, flanging, tape flanging, echoes, and you know, Leslie effects. You know, when you listen to some of the great songs in the studio, he was using a real Leslie effect. And in a live situation, he didn't do that. He was just using his setup similar to this one here. Okay, just for fun, I have dialed in the same kind of setup with different pedals and with my Marshall here. Let me try if I can get this to work. Okay. What is missing? There's one cable missing. No, it's going, where is it going? Output. Ah, okay, there was an echo before. Let's use the Replex then. Let's use the Replex. Yeah. And so this is the output to the amp. This is the power that we need. And then we need an input, which is this one here. So, we can hear some noise. This thing is alive. Okay, so this is on bypass, and this is the modulator. This is using my real Plexi JMP 50 watts. Fantastic amp. Bypass, bypass. So this is like everything on bypass, okay? And this is the guitar down, and this is the guitar up. This is like a 50 watt Plexi on full volume. This is how we like it. Okay, this is the wah. Okay, and then we go and check the fuzz. And this fuzz here, again, cleans up like crazy, which I like. And when I crank the volume on the guitar, it burns. That's the beauty of a fuzz. So that was his trick, how to get the guitar clean and super dirty. No channel switch, just the volume control. And this is the Jimi Hendrix fuzz by Dunlop. And as we all know, fuzzes sound so different because they rely on the quality of the transistors used in the fuzz. And they have so big tolerances, so buy the one that sounds good for you. And there's not a brand or a typical fuzz. Because I found, you know, of course, some boutique manufacturers, they select the transistors, but the standard ones can be brilliant too if you just find the right one for you. Okay, and this is the Proctavia, as we have seen it. And this is originally Roger Meyer signed, so autograph model, hand-built in the UK. Of course, it's a nice rocket design, and there's only, I think, 1 or 2 transistors in there. It's like a big housing for nothing, but it sounds super cool. Almost like a rim modulator. I like it especially with some delay. Listen to that. Yeah, Hendrix didn't do that, but I do that. And then there's the Mojo wipe, which is another wipe. I think I have 5, 6, 7 wipes. I have the Roger Meyer, the what is it? The black box, the big one. I have the white one from another company. Forgot the name. Fuck it. Too many wipes. Anyway. And again, this is about the rumble bass. By the way, this was Castles Made of Sand. And this is a song that shows the quality of Jimi Hendrix as a songwriter. He was not only a big rock god and killer performer on stage, he was also a super sensitive guy that was writing great lyrics, great songs, and he has shown the world that he is multi-dimensional. And this was the thing that made him, to me, so great. Being the guy that was doing Foxy Lady, on the other hand, he was doing... And all his playing techniques also, you know, he plays this double stops and kind of slides, and fantastic, you know. And of course then his bends, you know. Yeah, killer tone. You know what? Let's compare that killer tone and try the same thing straight out in the amp1. I'm just curious. Let's see. I always want a challenge. Okay, plug this into here and see if we get a similar tone. Okay, let's see. Okay, sorry. okay, I got the flashback in the loop. Oops, that's changing the volume. Doesn't matter, but it sounds... Okay, anyway, yeah, sounds cool. So, Hendrix. A few things about Hendrix in the studio. He was experimenting with rooms. So when you listen to the later albums, like on the Electric Ladyland, which was his own studio in New York, there is this beautiful tone of the blues version of with the reverb, with the room, the real room of that Voodoo Child, not the wah-wah version. You know, that long with who's the organ player? Ba 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 ba. Oh, famous. Fuck, I forgot all the names. You know. Yeah, anyway, so this was a killer thing. Musically, I talked about the rock god, I talked about the songwriter, but he was also funky like hell. You know, there's yeah. So, yeah, he had so many different facets in his playing and in the way he was using the music, and he had no big music theory, and that's even more scary because he was trusting his instincts, basically. You know, he was combining chords in a way, it's, you know, there was no theory for that at that time, or maybe not around him. And this is what makes me admire him even more, that he felt the whole thing and he trusted his instincts and he created. He was a real creator. And yeah, this was the big life of Jimi Hendrix. I was part in that book here 10 years ago, where people analyzed technology and the musical style, and we wrote a little bit about what chords he was using and what tricks he was using and what sounds he was using. And so I spent some time analyzing Jimi Hendrix, and of course being inspired and trying to copy, but not to copy. And mind, there's the spiral cable. Every live thing you see is with a spiral cable. Okay. I think it's time for some questions now. And yeah, what are the questions? Hello, everybody. The Dutch guitar dude again. Okay, silicon or Gourmand is the black fuzz? Actually, I don't know. You have to look it up. I bought it 20 years ago or 25 years ago. It says Jimi Hendrix. I think it's silicon, but I'm not sure. I can show you this in the camera. Maybe somebody can look it up, what it is. Maybe like this. Somebody can see that. JH2. Flying text. I read that you have your frets set a radius that runs your old Strat into a compound radius. Yes, but notice that it isn't the way the vintage Strats are set up. Could you tell me about the bending on the higher frets of your signature vintage guitar? Okay, I read that you have your frets set a radius that turns old Strat into compound. Okay, compound radius. It all started with that Strat here. And this Strat here is a player Strat. It is a real 61 Stratocaster, but this guitar I bought when I was 17 and I used it for my whole entire life. And I faced all the problems that we all face when we play Strats, because when you bend the notes at a certain point, they simply get stuck and sit on the fret. So what I've done is I have looked at the points where the strings were touching the frets when I was bending the strings, and then kind of filing or sanding them down in a way that I didn't have the usual problem. And actually I found out years later that this is called the compound radius. So what is a compound radius? It is a vintage radius at the lower range, at the lower register here, that is round, 7 1/4 or whatever, and then it becomes flatter in the higher register here. And I never measured it. Some people do it 10 or 12 or whatever. I just made it as I needed it for my guitar and this setup. Okay, where are we here? Okay, as I told you, I was playing the guitar to the video out of tune, and now I try to get the guitar back in tune. This is now a regular 440, hopefully. Good enough for jazz or for Jimi. Jimi had big tuning problems all the time. Not because of video and digital shit, no, because of the wheel. A Strat can be a bitch, and maybe he didn't know all my tricks. If I would have met him, I would hold him my tricks, and he would probably have a better tuning stability, having to raise the string tree and little things. Anyway, okay, so compound radius is vintage radius to a flatter radius here, like on the Gibson. And on that vintage guitar, on these colorful ones, they go with the vintage radius. On the BluGuitar, which is downstairs, I use the compound radius. Okay. What's the next question? Can button 9 on remote one, 9 on remote one. Remote one. Do we have a remote one somewhere out in the corridor? In the corridor we have more gear. Yeah, and here comes a remote one. So can button 9 on remote one, 9, which is power soak, act as a mute switch that only affects the speaker cabinet. No, the power soak on the remote kind of scales the power amp of the amp 1 down from 100 watts to 7 watts, in that range, from like maximum to the middle. It's 100 watts, 90 watts, blah, 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 and this is continuous. And in the middle it makes a switch, bam, and then it goes to home mode, which is 2 watts down to 150 milliwatts. And this is done to show the world that our nanotube power amp in the amp 1 is tube-like in the way it reacts. It's not a Class D power amp that sounds like Class D and does only produce a lot of volume and no tone. No, it actually saturates, does all the zagging and everything, you know, from a tube amp. And therefore I use that feature to show that it's possible. In my own opinion, it's not really needed. I don't need it that much. Well, actually, I personally don't use it even. But it's a nice feature to have that shows you that you can downsize the power of the power amp. And the Amp 1 Mercury edition and also the Iridium edition has a half power mode, which protects your speaker in case you want to make double sure that your weak, whatever, 50 watt speaker is not killed by the 100 watts of that nanotube amp. But if you are a bit careful, you can have the 100 watts even at a 50 watt speaker. This is what I do all the time. And our BluGuitar cabinets are super sturdy. They officially handle 60 watts and they have a peak power handling of 120 watts. So if you are a bit cautious, no problem. And the rule of thumb, I always can repeat that, is crank the volume, and when you come to the point where it doesn't get any louder, just more compressed, this is where you should stop with cranking the master volume, because this is where the speaker is at its limit. And so it's not needed anything else. The power soak gives you the power amp saturation at a lower setting. If you want that, I rather go for a different channel and get it from there. Okay, next question. I was wondering if all these MIDI options will work for the first edition silver of the Amp 1 too. Yes, the Amp 1 silver, or the first edition, the early ones, they have the same socket and the same functionality. So the MIDI 1 adapter will turn the Amp 1, even the first ones, into a unit that can receive MIDI program changes and MIDI control changes. So anything is basically possible. The only thing that is not possible is switching the reverb, boost and effects by control changes. But you can simply recall like presets doing that. And as our switching is fast, there is no gaps, there's a way to do that. So the newer has a few more options on the MIDI side, but there is basically nothing that you will miss. Okay, Bhaskar Puri. Okay, Thomas, how about using the Iridium edition with the nano cap to create a super compact metal rig? Since you've said before that the speakers on the BluGuitar are somewhere between cream and vintage, and both are great speakers for metal. Yes, isn't this a viable combination? Can you show how to set this combination up for the best tone? I have seen many videos of nano cap with the Mercury edition, but none with the Iridium. Well, I think the nano cap can even produce a great metal tone. And I heard people doing that. But I believe the nano cap is not powerful enough to use a single nano cap in a live situation. So if I would be in a metal situation, I would have at least 2 nano caps. And that would work. But a single nano cap is enough if you want to do recording, if you want to, if you have something on stage and still have like in-ears, something like this. But full-on metal, I would recommend a 2x12 cabinet, like 2 nano cabs or a twin cab, or 2 fat cab, or what's also a great combination, by the way, is a fat cab and a nano cab. So that's another option, and that's definitely 2 of our speakers is enough for a band situation. 1 of our speakers is enough if you play, you know, not too heavy and not too loud, unless it's the twin cab. Okay. We got a question here. How will the MX question replicate the Mesa Boogie Mark series? Will have the EQ after the first gain stage and before the distortion. Also, what about the graphic EQ? Okay, Mesa had created their own design by using, you know, several EQs in the signal path. So one of the tricks of the Mesa amp is they had an EQ that kind of determines about the saturation of the, how the EQ on the saturation, and one is post, which was this 5-6 band graphic EQ and this, you know, famous V shape for the metal guys. And we do have both. We do have both things in the Amp X. We have a pre-EQ, we have a post-EQ, and we can tweak every EQ to actually replicate that. So at this point, I wouldn't worry, because next year we'll see. And I'm aware of that design, and I think ours can replicate that. Maybe not exactly with the same amount of sliders, but at least the tones that you get from that. We do have a bass, mid, treble and presence control, and that does a lot. And they are totally tweakable, where we can move them at any frequency, at any shape, at anything. So stay tuned. That's a good challenge for us too. But yeah, we get the tone at least. Next question here, Stefan Hardekopf. Is there an affordable Univibe pedal you could recommend? To be honest, my time when I bought all these purple Univibes and Mojo vibes and another vibe and Deja vibe, this was the one that I was missing, and it's like, I don't know, 15, 20 years back. And I'm sure you get affordable stuff now, maybe from Chinese brands or from, you know, like in micro size even. I noticed that the ones that use the LDRs, like the photo resistor with the LED or with the light coupling, mostly sound the most authentic. I'm not totally up to date what we find on the market affordably, but I'm sure there are some killer pedals in smaller, compact formats and maybe even at lower prices. Sorry guys, if somebody knows some good examples for that, please write that in the comments on our chat here, on the live chat, so we can share that information. Maybe you can, yeah, write down your favorite vibe pedal and the kind of price range in whatever US dollars or pounds or euros, and of course the value. But don't forget the currency, otherwise we get totally fucked up by numbers without knowing what it is. Yeah, I just get the comment here from the Dutch guitar dude that the Nux Monterey vibe could be the one. Nux is a Chinese company. We had the multi-effect pedal in the last episode, and they are definitely affordable. And they're doing some great pedals, so check that out. At least that's a good starting point. So at this point, we don't have any more questions, which is great. I think if you have any more, save them for the next episode. I would love to make a little question. Do we have one of those Hendrix DVDs somewhere? No, that's not the one. Hendrix. No. Or it should be in the pile, and maybe in the pile, maybe not. So the question is, what string gauge was Jimi Hendrix using? No, that's the other one. Doesn't matter. Give me one of those. I have a tutorial DVD of Jimi Hendrix, just like that. That's the one. I think that. Yeah, give it to me. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, that's the one. Da, 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 da. So, the prize of today again is how to play Jimi Hendrix. It is a DVD and it's backing tracks with how to learn the techniques of Jimi Hendrix styles, how to play that behind the neck, behind your head, whatever. And the question is, what is the gauge of Jimi Hendrix strings? Can you give it to me, please? And the first one who's got the right will get this one. Oh, we find very different gauges here. I have found some guy here, and this is actually like what I was Googling again, and it is in that book. So I trust the books. So who is the first one with the right set? I think you are all wrong by now. Still wrong. 9 to 46, that's me. 8 to 42, that's not him. And mind that he was even playing the guitar in drop tuning most of the time. Fuck, I had it in the book. Okay, this is... in this book you can find everything. This is like, even he had the speakers that I love to, with the 55 Hertz bass resonance. Let me see if I find it here. Any news? I don't see the right answer yet. At least not the one that is in this book. And that somehow I found on the internet. The right guitar. Fucking hell. Okay, now we're getting closer. This is the amps. And then we have effects. Okay, the Dutch guitar dude is the first one that's right. Yes, I think he's right, at least starting with tens. Yeah. And it was 10, 13. Oh no, this guy is 10, 13, 17, 26, 30, 52. No. 10, 13, 15, 26, 20, 38. Okay, the first guy was Zebulon. Sorry guys, 10 to 38. Zebulon, whoever this is, 5101. So this is the winner. Okay, sorry guys. I took notes. So here are my notes. 10, 13. I can't read my own. 15, 26, 32, 38. So 10 to 38. This guy was Zebulon 5101 is right. Yeah, I forgot about 2. Anyway, so these are the magic questions. Okay. I will play another song. Do we have any vibe here? No, we have nothing. Okay, how to make the setup here with the guitar? Wait a minute, I'm in here. Okay, I use a vibe as well. Fuck, I'm getting confused. This is the echo. This is input. This comes from the vibe. Oh no, we have the vibe. Okay, let me play Little Wing now in standard 440 tuning. Hopefully that works.
things about Ride on my little wheel.
So, okay, Little Wing, and this was the end of my Hendrix part of this one. Next part of this show is a meeting with my dear friend Andreas Kloppmann. And Andreas is the guy who does the pickups in that guitar, the middle pickup, and I have other pickups using in other guitars. And we have an ongoing project, which is my Gold Top Les Paul. And this guitar I bought like 10 years ago, and we're trying to get this guitar converted into my favorite Les Paul, which is a 1957 Gold Top. And this one is a 68, and we kind of meet each other on a regular basis, kind of every couple of months. We have a lot of phone calls, and we dig in deep, trying to get absolutely everything right in the way that I can have a Les Paul that makes me happy. So here's my tone buddy, Andreas Kloppmann. And sorry, I just get the message, we picked the wrong winner. Yeah, somebody was even earlier. So the actual winner is Paul Schlachter, having the right numbers, 10, 13, 15, 26, 32 and 38. He was first. I trust my guys here, and if somebody is to blame, beat them up. It's not me. Okay, but anyway, now please enjoy the second part where we dig in tone on guitars and the rest of what's important, how to get a great tone on the guitar. We recorded this a couple of weeks ago. Enjoy Andreas Kloppmann and myself, and see you soon after this episode next week. Bye bye.
Haven't played for 14 days now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andreas Kloppmann, master and tone connoisseur. He's got his own company, Kloppmann Electrics, designing and producing beautiful pickups. We go back, I don't know, 25 years, 20?
I can't remember.
Yeah, too long ago.
Like
last century.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he had a nice step over here at my place. He's been on vacation with his family, you know, wife and 2 sons.
Yes.
And,
southern part of France, always nice.
Yeah.
For red wine.
For red wine.
Lots of sun.
Yeah, and then we had a red wine last night over here, so we're totally relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you should know a few things about Andreas. He's also, or he used to be a gigging musician playing in Albatros.
Albatros, yes, that was my last band that I had.
Yeah.
Before that, I was in soul bands and country bands and jazz bands and.
So he's been on the road. He knows how it smells. He knows how it sounds, and he knows the real deal situations for the musician. And then I met you working in a music store in Bremen in the Gitbox.
Yes, Gitbox, but that was years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Must be, I guess, 92, 93, about that.
That time, yeah.
Yeah.
We were both younger, and yeah, this was a very passionate a music shop with Manny Reckmeyer, the technician.
Yeah, Money was the guy
Yeah.
fixing the amps.
And by the way, here's
Way back
one
when.
of Manny's. Yes, the lowest Marshall on this stack here. The lowest is a Manny Reckmeyer modification. With the low cut on the bass and the Peter Wire mods.
Great.
Yeah.
You still have it.
I still have it, yeah, because I like it. And he also modded my AC30. So I have the slow vibrato
Yes.
mod. Yeah, and I have the top boost
I guess
mod.
that was the beginning when Money was fixing the SE30
Yeah.
Vox amps for the Hanover guys.
Yeah, and so I kind of
Yeah,
got
and
notice
so
of that.
you came into our story then.
Yeah, and then we met, and then I was looking for a Strat pickup, and I had a very specific question to Andreas, because in my real 61 Strat, where is it here? The middle pickup, I wanted to be like a 66 middle pickup.
Yes.
And I tried some Seymour Duncans and Lindy Fraylins and whatever was on the market. And
You actually had one original 66 pickup which you liked so
Yeah.
much, but it
I
wasn't.
wanted that exactly that sound, and nobody else could give it. And you made a pickup that had exactly that sound and was reverse wound, because I'm a player, so
That
I
was the
wanted.
reason, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was really impressed, because I highly respect all the pickups guys, and they do their cooking recipe, but nobody could make me happy. And so
Yeah.
you were the first one that actually made me happy. I mean, I'm not saying Seymour Duncan is not the kind of pickups that he's making great pickups.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't have the access, and he didn't do it for me. And then with this starting point, we have a relationship which goes like decades now. And with this pickup, this is maybe still another, what is it, bobbin and rebound.
I cannot remember. In these days, I always had used pickups to rewind them and check out how they sounded, and getting a feel for the magnetic stuff, and then create a coil to have that special
tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the whole thing started, and after a few years later, we made it available kind of in a set, or we made a set, but then I don't even know why. I think we simply made a Blug set 1. Do you remember?
Yeah, we thought about having a set with your name on it, just to please. So I had many customers asking, what is Thomas using as pickups, and what about the neck and bridge pickups? And so I thought about, why not having this as a set with your name on it? And
Makes
so we brought that out, and people went for it, and it's still going strong.
Yeah. And
Later we had a second version of it,
Exactly.
but that was basically the story.
Yeah, and the second version we can see on this guitar. Oops, this is
See, yes, it
Yeah.
looks the same, but it sounds different.
yeah. So this is like. Can I grab just the cable for a sec, so we can show people what's going on here? This is. Strat needs a little bit higher. So to me, this is like the Blug Set 2, which
Yes.
is in the BluGuitar, and you are also part of the BluGuitar,
Right,
team in a way, because we exchange so much, experience, knowledge, and we kind of challenge each other in different ways. He complains about amps, and I
Yes, I always complain about amps.
I always complain about pickups. So the pickup set in this Gibson here is, I think, number 3 by now. And we are.
Yes, I guess so.
And we will find out if we are done or not yet done.
Surely not, but we're getting closer and closer.
This is the nice thing about being, on a journey to a point. And I have to say, with the pickup sets I've done with Andreas for the Strat, I'm totally happy. There is nothing that comes to my mind that I would ask you for at this point. It is.
Yes, it's at the point to be totally happy. It's already far behind in the past. So
Yeah.
we're working on details.
Exactly.
So
And this color of the Blug set 2, which I found is has one big advantage. The set 1 is kind of a specific set that has a lot of, I would say, the attack, and it has a bit more bite. But so if the guitar is kind of a woolly, boring one, the Blug set 1 is my favorite. But if the guitar is good, the Blug set 2 is my favorite now, because I found this is like, I put that in so many guitars, and every guitar
Yes, I know.
It works.
from every price range,
Any
up
price
from
range.
100
Yeah,
euros
the cheapest
up to-
guitar to the most expensive guitar.
Yeah.
And this pickup makes any Strat simply sound more like my real deal Strat in the way that makes me happy. It's like magnifying the Strat thing and adding just sheer quality. And so this is my favorite currently. I'm not saying the one set is any bad. No, it's more specific. You have to know where you put it in.
Yeah, and it's more critical where you put it. The guitar has to have a certain
quality.
level of quality.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would.
Maybe
Cut
not.
you.
Yeah. So these are the projects in the Strat pickups, and Andreas is working, or still maybe or finished it. I don't know, with Peter Weyer. They have done his 58 set, or what is it?
You swapped from the Strat to the humbuckers.
Yeah. Okay. This is a cut. Okay. This is like Strat goes to humbuckers, and this guitar actually was a recommendation by Peter Weyer. He said, "Blugie, you have to buy this guitar." He was selling his, what was it? The original Ronnie Montrose.
He had an original 58, which he acquired not directly, but through a dealer from Ronnie Montrose, and that was the guitar that was reissued by Gibson as the CC28.
Okay.
A few years ago, and Peter had this guitar for years, and this was in these years the only Les Paul that I knew.
Yeah. But it was a killer Les Paul.
Because in these times we all were going for ES335 because we're all fans of Larry Carlton and Lee Ritenour and all these guys playing these big. And I had, I guess, 5 of these guitars and still have a nice 61 now. And
by the way,
we went so much into this Les Paul theme, so Peter was always the guy to point on the Les Paul.
Right. And just question about 335. What year is it? Do you know that? How can you define the year of a 335?
It's
mid 60s. Somebody told.
It's mid 60s, yes, and you have to look at details to find.
We fix that in another episode.
Yeah. Most of them have these V-tail piece up from 64. They are early 64s that have the stop. This stop is highly unoriginal.
Sure. It's so shiny, you can even tell if you're not an expert.
You don't have to pass it over to me. I see it from here. And yes, the pickups are not original because they are gold. So these have been acquired maybe from a 355 or 345.
But they sound great.
Yeah, of course. I know this guitar.
Yeah. So,
and the lower serial starting with a 3 points out to be somewhere around the mid 60s, not to the end. Starting with 3,
3403.
I don't have all the numbers in mind, but
maybe 7 at the end. But
66, something like that.
Okay. Oh, it's a good year. It's my birth year.
So
I choose the right one guitar for me. Okay, back to the Peter Weyer story. So Peter sold his original 58 that belonged to Ronnie Montrose.
Before. But before he sold it, going back 20 or 30 years to the years of end of the 70s, I can't remember exactly when that was, but it was 79 or 80 or something like that. Peter came up with this guitar, valuable as a Mercedes car in those days.
Yeah.
And we all thought, me and my friends. I had a close friend who went to school with Peter Weyer, so that was the reason that I knew him, because Peter was from Bremerförde and I was from Bremen, and I had a good friend, Rainer Damisch,
from
that
Bremerförde.
lived together and we practiced guitar together. And so I knew Peter, and so we heard about Peter buying this expensive guitar in those days already.
Yeah. But I mean, Peter, you have to understand, he is the #1 German session player in recording everything from Bonnie M, you name it, anything on the radio in the whatever 80s,
90s, and still
was Peter Weyer. You know, I mean, nowadays things have changed in the industry, but he's maybe one of the most recorded session players in Europe.
I guess so.
Definitely in Germany.
Yeah.
So and he needs good tools, and he is a perfectionist. We both know him, and when Peter wanted to replace his Les Paul, his 58, I just got a call from him or through you that he said, you know, I gathered a few Les Pauls, blah blah blah, and you have to get this one.
Yeah.
So and then of course
this was 2005, where Peter called around and said, let's make a big Les Paul symposium.
Yeah.
And he called many people that he thought they could point out certain spots on Les Pauls, what makes them so special,
right?
And where the sound comes from, people who owned old Les Pauls. So we sat in Peter's studio on a long table. I guess we were like the Last Supper, 12 disciples around Peter, and we passed around many old Les Pauls. We had a 54 all gold there, and we had 259 Sunburst there. We had Peter's 58 there. We had a special Les Paul from 60? I guess it was 60 that got a new neck, and we had quite a few guitars, and we had some of the newer guitars that were built from the Gibson factory in those days. And I had my old Ibanez Lawsuit with me with pickups of mine already.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we passed these guitars around the table. Everyone was looking and smelling and hearing the sound.
Yeah.
And we spent, I guess, 5 hours without even plugging in.
Yeah, just to try.
To hear the guitar. Yeah. And then always is this point on Les Pauls where they lose their bottom tone.
The button, yeah.
At least they should make the G. That's okay. And then it gets critical.
Here's more the A.
So on the A it's still there, and it's losing on B flat. And then it gains again. So
okay.
We compared these things.
Yeah, but this is, I think, it's exciting to analyze.
I always like to do this. You hear the certain voicing, and then listen to the resonance frequency.
Yeah, it's a B.
There's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
There are others. They're always around here.
Yeah.
Because this resonates with every tone on the next, like a modulation.
Sure. Yeah.
So we went through all these things, checking the Les Pauls and comparing and looking. And going back to Peter's Les Paul, it was a very tight construction.
Yeah.
With very bright tones when you hit the strings. It would bloom up in every kind of frequency, going up to where you
ultra highs.
Yeah.
And then Peter challenged you to do the perfect pickup for him.
Yes.
And
So he had but he still has
Yeah.
a guitar builder who's into woods and
Yeah.
how to modify woods, how to work with that, to make a guitar construction. It was Stefan Sander.
Okay.
And he checked them for resonancy and for wood quality. And I was the guy to check the electrical parts. So
Yeah, I just heard you talking with Peter so many times about this next set and the next set and the next set.
yeah.
And then I heard these pickups and they are fantastic. I have to say, I got one of those and I said, wow. But then comes the Blugie and he said, I know somebody that has a 57 gold top.
Yeah.
And this was my holy grail.
So this whole story split. So we take it.
This is Peter, and this is me. I go
Yeah,
back
this is on the Blugie.
Yeah.
On the Blugie line. So
Yeah. And then we already spent I don't know how much time, 3 years, 5 years, or even longer, with this guitar in going.
what we wanted to tell was the story of this guitar, because on this symposium in 2005, this guitar was present, and Peter acquired that from Frankfurt, and it once belonged, I guess, to a punker. So that was completely painted in white, and here are still some spots. The whole guitar was painted over in white, and later they stripped the top again and painted it orange.
I got pictures of that original color. And of course it was a unique color, and everybody asked me, please leave it like it is, but I wanted my gold top.
Yeah.
And then we found Matthias Schindehütte, a guy from Frankfurt, and he did the beautiful...
He did the top, the wonderful.
The paint job here, which I actually like a lot. I mean, usually I'm not that much into cosmetics, but this time it helped me to get closer to my guitar, my dream guitar. And and then we started to make first round, and then find out about the differences between what Peter wanted so badly and so deeply. I mean, he's
in fact, we started out with the first version of the Peter Weyer signature set, which you had in there when it came out a few years ago, and you used it, you played it, and it was fine from the first spot.
Yeah,
but then the Blugie.
And then what I found
because you're not Peter.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's good. We all
mainly a Strat player.
Yeah, and I wanted to have more twang, more like a telly on steroids. And this was what I found in the 57 guitar from a friend of ours, and also on the Diggy Betts guitar. Remember when we played that?
Yeah, in Hamburg.
In Hamburg.
At number one.
Yeah, we played the original Diggy Betts. I guess you know who he is. The Allman Brothers guitar player. And we played this guitar, and this was the tone I was looking for.
Was it a 57 as well, or 58?
I don't know. I'm not the expert.
I guess this was a gold top that was stripped and made sunburst.
Whatever that guitar was, it had that tone.
It had that tone because it was a 57, I guess.
Yeah, and so there's this new kind of tone that I finally realized is the tone that I'm looking for in a Les Paul. I had to learn that too, you know, because in the early days it's like...
It's a journey.
I had some Les Pauls, and my first real good Les Paul that I played was maybe at the age of 20, but I couldn't afford it. And so it was in Münster in some guitar shop, vintage shop, maybe you remember the name. I didn't have the money, and so maybe it was a 58 or 57, I don't know, but I remember something from still that day. And now the whole thing, my picture gets clearer. It's about, okay, this one guitar, the other guitar, and there's this tone. And over the years I had a few more Les Pauls, and I found out 59s are beautiful guitars, and I have, you know, it's all good, but I prefer the 57s so far.
Yeah, because they are so more to the Fenderish taste of guitars. Yeah,
and that's what I want from Les Paul. You know, I love the Les Paul for what it is, but if it connects to my background, by being in that way, it helps. And
Yeah.
and it's instant reaction with me. And this is what it's all about, and it's a personal thing. You know, the next player wants some totally different thing. But for me, it's so great to have somebody like Andreas that understands guitars, pickups, musicians, and me.
And that's right. You have to understand the guitar itself
Yeah.
before you start off
Pickup.
checking the pickups and the wiring and the pot values and the quality of the caps and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then looking at the player
Yeah.
and then combining all the things so that it gets to the taste of the player.
Yeah,
And
talking about
to
a-
be a useful tool for his
Yeah.
emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about the wiring, we are into the 50s wiring with this guitar.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe you can explain the difference between the 50s and the later wirings?
Yeah. On the if you play full up and turn down the tone control, comes quite late. This is a typical reaction of a tone control, as you know, on Fender guitars.
Yeah.
That mellows out the tone, takes away the high frequencies. Ends up with this honky woman
Yeah.
tone.
Yeah.
And if you do the same, if you knob is on the, so we go back from 0 to 10. No, it's like you're going back from 10, maybe to 7,
Yeah. That's
and then turn down the tone pot. Somewhere in the mid-range, low mids goes down and opens the sound.
and that's more transparent.
Yeah,
So that's I think this is the most important thing. You know, when you turn down, it's getting more open.
yeah.
Yeah.
You take away the mid-range, and so the higher frequencies have more chance to cut through.
Cut through. And then when you turn further down,
You turn further down. On some certain point,
it gets dull.
it catches again.
Yeah.
The more you turn down, the more it goes down. The spot where it starts working goes up and up and up and up,
Yeah.
and then it catches down the higher frequencies
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the end. So on the way down from 10 to maybe 3 or 4, you still have this.
Nice high end, top
Yes.
end. There's some,
You have this high end because it's the same high end as full up, but you're lowering the mid range.
and that's given more,
Yep.
more clarity. Yeah. And for me, this is the magic when I play my overdrive stuff, because I can work the tone like on a Strat.
Yeah.
And you know, a standard modern Les Paul with not these kind of vintage qualities doesn't do that. And this is what I'm after. You know,
Yeah, because when we go back to 60s wiring,
yeah,
then the tone pot will always act like on 10, will always go cutting high frequencies, go into this mellow bump that comes on the end. So 50s wiring is a chance to acquire a whole bunch of sounds out of the guitar. And if you think you have 2 pickups doing, and the controls doing both the same, you have endless combinations.
Yeah.
Turning down here, you can have a rhythm sound. And when you then turn, if you do that with a Marshall sound,
Yeah, sure.
you can do channel switching with,
Sure.
just with the guitar.
Yeah, sure.
The sound. Oh, 40 days, just in the pool every day.
Big figures.
Yeah, starts hurting.
Yeah. Yes, okay, it will come back.
Next time I bring a guitar for the holidays.
Okay. Well, on the way down to south of France, I can drop you one here. Yeah, cool. So you see, there's a big thing that you can get out of a 50s wiring.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm interested in. I mean, some other players, they just want to full-on Les Paul sound because they want to play power chords and screaming solos. But I'm the kind of sensitive guy that wants to have the subtle notes and will want to work with each note. And
yeah, so you got the opportunity to do that.
And this kind of airy, breathing, open sounds, they come from the 50s wiring and, of course, the good pickups. So if they
and the guitar.
And the guitar, sure.
And the right bridge also.
Yeah, we know it's
on and on and on.
On and on. Every detail counts. Yeah. So that's the story of, and this is a story that still is going on, but I'm at such a high level now that I actually gig with this guitar. And I've never been seen on stage with a Les Paul. And since last year, we are on the level that I have this guitar, plug it in and play. And the funny thing is I don't even adjust my settings on the amp. For me, it's like now I take the Les Paul as it is and it works in my setup. And
it's always the thought in the back of my head that you can change between a Strat and a Les Paul and a Gibson style guitar without readjusting the complete amp.
Yeah. And this is the thing, we also talk about amps, When I came out with the M1, Andreas checked it out, of course, and then, of course, he said, I like it a bit tighter, I want to, he has a, again, like 59 and 57, he has his own tones and the stuff that he is focused on, which is great, because I've got my shit in my head.
I was thinking about a certain region where to work in.
Yeah.
Having strict sounds and big and mellow sounds on the side where you are more.
Yeah.
So.
But this is the good thing. That you have a very, very defined character that you want to hear, and you are a tone connoisseur on that high level that I actually respect, because you know what you want, you can show it and you can prove it.
Yeah.
And I know it's not talking for talking reasons, it's talking for you've been there reasons, because you've gigged, you recorded in the studio. And so Andreas was one of the guys, with some others, but one of the guys that made me change the original M1 into the Mercury edition.
Yes.
Yeah, and I still love my first one. I still have one down there.
It's a very good amp, the first one, and I still have one.
You have one,
I have one,
and the clean channel has still some magic. This is pretty close, but it's not exactly the same because I changed the power and blah blah blah. But the overall thing is in our whatever it is, a mutual relationship and friendship, and on so many levels, we both can learn how to get further in what we are doing, and it's a nice challenge always. You can tease me, I tease you back.
As long as you call it a nice challenge, it's okay for me.
I'm totally happy with that, and so that's great. And now you had the Iridium, the black one that is behind.
That's my favorite now. Yes, that does what I want.
See, so somehow.
So each amp just opens a window to a certain space.
Yeah.
So and if we talk about the first amp, it's here.
It's here.
It's a nice variety of sounds you can have
in this range.
Yeah,
and then the Mercury.
The Mercury is in the middle, and there are some sound that you can't get. But these sounds and this one are really great.
Yeah.
And then comes the Mercury. It has some sounds that the iridium that the Mercury has. But the iridium
takes it further into that range.
It's such a great. It's tough. It's quick.
Yeah.
It's punchy.
Yeah. And it's technically.
And I gigged with that. One of the last gigs that
you played?
It was my last gig and one of the last gigs you could do
before the COVID-19.
Yeah, this shitty COVID came in.
Yeah.
And it was the first gig for years where I left my Super Lead at home.
The Marshall Super Lead.
Yeah, I left it at home. The years before, I always had an amp one with me to have it as simply for the echo machine.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's a nerd, you know.
And now I just had the iridium using the send return loop for adding some echoes.
Yeah.
It was just great.
Yeah.
I had my 68 cabinet.
Yeah. Killer
with
cabinet.
me and good.
Yeah. You know,
we played with 3 other bands.
Yeah.
And one was playing this camper thing.
Yeah.
And the other had a Marshall combo, and in the end they all
sounded not as good as you did.
Came to me and said, "What is that? What is that?
Yeah.
How did you do that?" I said, "Just a good guitar and a good cabinet
amp.
and
good amp." Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that.
Yeah.
This punch.
See, and this is now something that connects with you on the amp side, as pickups connect with me. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you are doing brilliant pickups in the whole range, but I don't connect to all of them. You know, I respect.
Of course not. Yeah,
because
surely, because you're only one person.
Yeah, and I'm on the one side, I'm very happy about being what I am, having a limited thing and being a guy that has his own style, kind of thing. You know, some other players are more the chameleon type of guy. They can do everything perfectly. I tried that as a studio musician, and I came to a certain level, but to be honest, this was never my thing. Mm-hmm. I took it as a challenge, and I quit the whole business because this was not my core thing. My core thing is very simple. I want to have fun with a tone that is like me. And this is all I need. And this is what I do in music lately. If somebody offers me money to do something, I'm not interested. I just want to do my thing. I want to do my amps. I want to do my music. And this is, back in the days, I was hired to be, you know, the session guy that played pop, the next day rock, that played even Schlager in German, and then whatever came along. And I took it as a challenge. I even played acoustic guitar, which I suck. But I took it as I even had a jazz kind of thing for advertising music, and I'm not a jazz player. I could fake it as good, so people believe it sounds real, but I'm not a jazz guy. So, you know, but now I do the stuff that I want, and therefore I need the tools that makes me happy to connect to the whole thing. And I think this is great to have somebody with this kind of wide range, wide understanding, with the full depth, with the whole life behind the guitar, the guitarists, the sounds, you know, the whole aspects of everything electric.
The list is long.
Yeah, the list is, and I think it's great because we always have something to talk about, and there's always great things for me coming out of this relationship. So, you know,
you're welcome.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for being on the show. And we probably do another episode in the future with Andreas Kloppmann.
Sure.
Cool.